Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Okay, good morning, students. I'm going to teach evapotranspiration today. You know that water evaporates from land and vegetation and water bodies to atmosphere, and from atmosphere again it comes back to the land as a rainfall. So this again, some part of the rainfall goes to subsurface, and remaining it goes as a runoff to the water bodies. In this process, it also wets the land, and so the water is evaporated from water bodies and land and as a vegetation to atmosphere. So evaporation, general evaporation is term for evaporation from water bodies and soil masses. But there another term, transpiration. So transpiration is this water released by the trees to the atmosphere as a water vapor. You know that vegetation, that is trees, plants, they do photosynthesis for to make nutrients for them, because what happens in photosynthesis, it takes water from soil through roots, and this water reaches to the leaves, and these leaves, they have stomato, they have small teeny openings, they're called stomato through, and these leaves, they use sun radiation, I mean that is energy, and as well as water, which is observed from the land through roots and branches. Then it takes CO2 from the atmosphere. So using all these three components, this energy and water and CO2, it makes nutrients. Okay. And in this process, it releases oxygen to the uh, atmosphere, and generally it also releases 95% of water. It is taken from the soil as a water vapor to the atmosphere. So this transpiration plus evaporation from land and as well as water bodies together termed as evapotranspiration. And there is another important term called potential evapotranspiration. So potential evapotranspiration is the water moisture, sufficient water moisture available, so that there is a moisture supply is not limiting for evapotranspiration. That means the soil surface is kind of saturated, and the tree, it takes the water without any difficulty from the soil, and then 5% of that water utilized for its photosynthesis, and 95% it releases to the atmosphere as water vapor. So this is like full capacity of transpiration, and as well as evaporation from water bodies and evaporation, maximum evaporation from the soil surface. This is together, it is called as potential evapotranspiration. So first, I'm going to teach evaporation. So what is this? Is a kind. It's the introduction. Okay. So evaporation means liquid changes to the gaseous state at the free surface of the liquid, and evaporation occurs below boiling point. Boiling and evaporation are two different things. Okay. Because boiling only occurs at 100 degree Celsius, but whereas evaporation can happen at any temperature, and evaporation is only surface, it only occurs at the surface, but whereas boiling occurs throughout the water body. So though there, these two are two important differences between evaporation and boiling. So during this evaporation, not only water molecules leave from the water body to the atmosphere, but some water molecules from atmosphere, move back to the water body. Okay, when this to and fro, I mean the outflow from water body and inflow to the water body, if it is equal, then it is called as saturated vapor pressure. So there is an equilibrium of water vapor going into the water body and uh, going out from the water body. So evaporation will be maximum at the boiling temperature. So we are interested to estimate evaporation. Okay, so in this class we are going to discuss different methods to estimate evaporation. So for that we need to know the factors affecting evaporation. Okay, so these factors are vapor pressure at the water surface and air above. Okay, so because when the water is evaporated, there is a gradient of vapor pressures. Okay, that is at the surface of the water and in the atmosphere. If the gradient is high, then the evaporation will be high. Then air and water temperatures, wind speed, atmospheric pressure, quality of water, size of the water body, then supply of moisture to the land surface. So this schematic diagram, it shows, okay, evaporation is taking place from water body and it is taking net radiation. Then there is a wind, it is transporting the water vapor away from the where it is taking place. So now these factors will be discussed in detail. Okay, so important factor is vapor pressure. So the rate of evaporation is proportional to the differences between saturation vapor pressure at the water surface and actual vapor pressure in the atmosphere. So evaporation rate, that is EL, so that is proportional to ES minus EA. So and we can write rate of evaporation is equal constant into ES minus EA. And generally this rate of evaporation, it is expressed in millimeter per day. And vapor pressures, they are in the they are in the pressure units. Okay, so they can be expressed as mm of Hg. So if saturated vapor pressure is greater than atmospheric vapor pressure, then evaporation occurs. Suppose the saturation vapor pressure is less than atmospheric vapor pressure, this is nothing but super saturation. Okay, so in this case condensation occurs. So what happens, instead of water vapor evaporating from water body, water vapor going into the water body from atmosphere. So ES is equal EA, that means the saturated vapor pressure in the water surface equal to the uh, vapor pressure of atmosphere, then there is no evaporation because the gradient is zero. So temperature, so rate of evaporation is directly proportional to the temperature of water body and temperature and ambient temperature. So higher the temperature, higher will be the evaporation. Next important factor is wind. Okay, so what happens when the evaporation takes place? These liberated water molecules, they stay above the water surface. Okay, so to have a gradient, this water vapor should be pushed away. Okay, so that will be handled by the wind. Okay, so wind pushes away the evaporated water molecules so that the gradient will be there and then the evaporation is continued. And wind speed, it has a limiting because it needs to push away the water vapor from where evaporation is taking place. So uh, so as wind speed increases, evaporation increases, but beyond certain waves wind speed, it will not have any influence on the evaporation rate. And for small water bodies, uh, smaller wind speeds are sufficient to transport the water vapor away from the water body. But for larger water bodies, like such as big lakes and oceans, high wind speeds are required to push away that water vapor from the uh, from where evaporation is taking place. Another factor is atmospheric pressure. So if atmospheric pressure is more, then evaporation will be less. And atmospheric pressure is less, evaporation will be high. Why? Because for evaporation to occur, these water molecules has to rise from the water. Okay, they have to liberate and move away, move out from the water body. Suppose if the pressure is high, then they are restrained. If the pressure is less, they can easily move away from the surface of the water body. So therefore, evaporation increases at higher altitudes. And next important factor is soluble salts, that is quality of water. If water is very clear, then evaporation will be high. Okay, so if the water has soluble salts, then evaporation will be uh, low. Why? Because evaporation is inversely proportional to the specific gravity of the water or specific weight of water. So as soluble salts concentration increases, then specific gravity of the water increases. So therefore, there is a decrease in evaporation. So, and it is reported that evaporation from seawater is 3% less than the fresh water. Then size of the water body. So the rate of evaporation is directly proportional to the surface area of the water body. Suppose there are two lakes which are having equal volume of water, but one lake is one lake having a shallow depth, one lake has a shallow depth, and another lake it's a deep lake. So in shallow lake, the surface area will be more, therefore more evaporation. But in the deep lake, since surface area is less evaporation. And other factors are not only the surface area is a criteria. Deep lakes, they store more heat in the summer and they release that heat during the winter times. So therefore, the evaporation in the winter will be higher in deep lakes. So if you look at the annual average evaporation, that will not be impacted by this surface area and depth of because depth of the lake, because they balance each other. So therefore, the annual evaporation is not affected. So estimation of evaporation is important. Okay, because suppose a large reservoir is being constructed, and we need to know how many millimeters of water will be evaporated per day. Therefore, if the evaporation is high, then the live storage uh, we can have more live storage, so that will compensate the evaporation. Otherwise, if you don't plan for this evaporation needs, then the water which is useful, which should be used for irrigation, is taken away by this evaporation. And exact measurement of evaporation from a large body of water is indeed very difficult. So any of these process in hydrological cycle, they're very complicated, and exact measurements are very difficult. But there are methods to estimate evaporation on a small scale experimentally, and there are empirical evaporation equations are available, and analytical methods are available. So I'm not going to discuss empirical evaporation equations, but I'm going to discuss evaporimeters and analytical methods. So similar to the rain gauge, the instrument, okay, which is used to measure evaporation is called as evaporimeter. So evaporimeter is nothing but it is a storage tank, okay, which simulates a lake or a reservoir, and this evaporimeter is exposed to atmosphere. Therefore there is a loss of water due to evaporation, because because this water absorbs radiation, and the water molecules, they will increase their kinetic energy, and they collide with other water molecules, and in that process they get more kinetic energy, and then they escape from the surface. So whenever evaporation is measured using evaporimeter, we need to measure other important factors which affect evaporation, such as humidity, wind speed, and air and water temperature, and precipitation. So whenever there is a station for measuring evaporation, that station should have equipment to measure humidity, wind speed, and air and water temperatures, and precipitation. So there are different types of evaporimeters. The most notably, the most popular one is Class A evaporation pan. This is developed and used by US Weather Bureau. So I'll show you the photograph for better understanding. Okay, so you can see that this is a Class A evaporation pan. So this is nothing but a circular tank, and placed on the location where we need to measure evaporation. So Class A evaporation pan, its diameter is 1210 millimeters, and its depth is 255-meter depth. The plan is placed on a wooden platform of 15 centimeter height, so that it allow free circulation of air below the pan, because surrounding this evaporation pan, the ambient temperature will be there. And to measure, because the water will be evaporated, and water depth will be decreasing. Okay. So we need to take the water depth measurements at regular intervals. So to take water depth measurements, point gauge is used, and this pan is made of unpainted galvanized iron sheet to avoid corrosion. So this is elevation of Class A evaporation pan. So you can see that there is a freeboard of 5 to 15 centimeters, and total depth is 25 centimeters. And this Class A evaporation pan, it is placed 15 centimeter above the surface, and to have a ambient temperature. So all even the wind is allowed to flow underneath the evaporation pan. You can see in this figure, there is a, this is a measuring cylinder, because due to the wind, the water surface is having fluctuations. Okay, So to have accurate measurements, there is a measurement well is placed at a location, so that there will not be any fluctuations of water surface within that measuring well. You see this photograph, the corner one. This is class A evaporation pan, and you can see that nearby there is a rain gauge. This white instrument placed on land. So this is rain gauge, and there is another instrument is placed here. This is for measuring humidity and temperature. So I'll show you another photograph. So you can see that there is another instrument to measure wind speed and as well as wind direction. So one station of evaporation measurement. So it consists of rain gauge to measure precipitation and this evaporimeter to measure evaporation. Then wind speed measurement and as well as humidity and pressure and temperature measurements. So all measurements are required to estimate evaporation accurately. The advantages of this class A evaporation fan are it is a low tech. I mean technology. There is not much technology in it. It is a very simple thing, and it is inexpensive. So it is accurate. So disadvantages are, suppose, because the free fall is only 5 centimeters. Okay, so during if the rainfall is more than 5 centimeters, then it overflows. Okay, and that will not be accounted. So uh, and on the top of this evaporimeter, there is a screen. Okay, because if the screen is not provided, then birds and other wild animals uh, can drink water from this evaporimeter, because generally these evaporimeters they are placed at they are placed at dear students, somebody has their mic on. Okay, please off your mic. Okay, so there is a screen to prevent animals and birds to drink water from this evaporator. So our Indian standards, this is we have modified class A according to our own requirements. Okay, so you look at this is the elevation of Indian standard evaporimeter. This is the diameter of this pan is 1.22 meters and depth is 0.255 meter. Then this pan is made of copper sheet again because it holds water. So to avoid corrosion, this pan is made of copper sheet. And similarly, the water measurements will be taken with a point gauge, and top of the pan is covered with a hexagonal wire mesh to protect water from birds. And please note that because we are providing a screen at the top to prevent the drinking. I mean, to birds drinking the water, birds drinking water from this. But due to this screen, the evaporation will be less. Okay, because uh, it is obstructing the sun rays touching the water surface, and as well as it provides some shadow. It provides some shadow on the water surface, and as well as it prevents evaporation. So therefore, whenever there is screen, it reduces evaporation, and it is experimentally found that this ISI standard pan provided with a screen that reduces evaporation by 14%. The next important pan is Colorado sunken pan, because in the previous Class A pan and ISI standard pan, uh, you can see that that pan is placed above the soil, okay, and no way the walls are touching the soil, okay. There no way the soil is contact with the walls of this pan. So to simulate the realistic conditions, the Colorado sunken pan. So this is it represents a actual water body. You can see that. So this pan is inserted in the soil, and so that the sides and bottom, they are in touch with the ground, and it is uh, near simulation of a water body. Colorado sunken pan, its size, it is a square pan of 920 mm side, and its depth is 460 mm, and it's made up of again a galvanized iron sheet. Okay, so it is buried into the ground, and top 100 mm will be, okay, so the top 10 centimeter will be left out. So it has got some disadvantages, because if any leaks are there at the bottom, we cannot detect. Okay, so the measurement of evaporation will be inaccurate. Then sides of the grass should be trimmed, otherwise it will cover this pan, and is expensive to install, and it is less portable, because other pans they are directly placed above the surface, and they can be taken to other places. But this Colorado sunken pan, it is buried in the ground, so therefore it is not portable. But advantage of this Colorado sunken pan are radiation and aerodynamic characteristics are similar to that of lake. This is another three-dimensional view of Colorado sunken pan. So then US Geological Survey, they come up with a floating pan. So this floating pan is a square pan of size 900 mm side and 450 mm depth. So this is similar to this Colorado sunken pan, but instead of buried in the ground, this floating pan will be allowed to float in the lake, and there is a freeboard. I mean, baffles are provided to prevent water surging into the pan during the waves, and since it is placed in the lake, so the cost of installation and cost of maintenance will be high. So this is a typical floating pan. So you can see that it has got a rain gauge and temperature measuring device and humidity measuring device and pressure measuring device, and it is placed in water. Okay, it is surrounded by a buffalo wall to prevent the water flashing into the this evaporator. The advantage of this floating pan is because it exactly simulates evaporation from a lake or that water body under consideration. So if we want to measure, suppose the evaporation in a reservoir, okay, so we can use this floating pan. I mean, we can place the floating pan in that reservoir, and we can measure evaporation throughout the year. But since this measurement has to be taken every day or regular intervals. So the boat is required, and safety equipment and other things are required, and its maintenance will cost will be high. uh, these evaporation pans, they do not exactly model large reservoirs. Why? Because these large reservoirs, the depth is very high, so the heat storing capacity will be high, and also the sides and bottom, it is in contact with the ground, so there is a heat transfer, the heat flux transfer from the water body to the ground takes place along the sides and as well as bottom. So, but we cannot have those in evaporameter. So, therefore, uh, we need to correct the evaporation measured using evaporameter. So, we have to multiply with a coefficient Cp, that is called as pan coefficient. So, the actual lake evaporation, that is equal pan coefficient into pan evaporation. So, the pan coefficient, it is measured and found that it is different for different evaporimeters. So for class A pan, Cp is equal 0.7, whereas ISI, that is Indian Standards pan, Cp is equal 0.8, and for Colorado Sunken pan, Cp is equal 0.78, and floating pan, it is zero point 0.8. So you can see that among all this floating pan is more accurate. This World Meteorological Organization, it recommends minimum number of evaporimeters in a given area. So they say that in the arid zones, okay, arid zone is like a desert kind of thing where the rainfall is less and evaporation is high. So there should be at least one evaporimeter per uh, 30,000 square kilometers. That means around 16 or every 16 kilometer square, that is 16 to 16, not 60, sorry, it's square root of 330,000, so that comes around 160. Okay, so every 116 to 160 land, uh, we need at least one evaporimeter in arid zone. And for temperate climates, okay, like tropical regions, uh, every 500,000, every 50,000 kilometers square should have one evaporimeter. And cold regions where the evaporation is very less, uh, one evaporimeter is required for 100,000 kilometers square. So currently India has about 200 evaporimeters. So whatever now we have discussed, that is experimentally or field measuring of evaporation. But evaporation can also be measured by using empirical methods and analytical methods. So empirical methods are not very good because they are developed for a particular region. So therefore that equation works only for that region. But analytical methods, so analytical methods is having like sound logic and sound mathematical background. So analytical methods can be used irrespective of region or country. Only we need to know that ambient conditions to estimate evaporation. So among these analytical methods, the most popular methods are energy balance method, aerodynamic method, and combined method. So I'm going to discuss these three methods. So energy balance method. You can see that this schematic, okay, uh, is a water. It represents a water body. Uh, it takes radiation. This is a net radiation. Okay, net radiation is radiation received minus radiation reflected. Okay, so net radiation it takes, and part of this radiation again it gives back to atmosphere as a sensible heat. This is for heating the atmosphere, and as well as part of this energy is given to the ground surface. So using this uh, heat energy, the evaporation takes place. So this is the water body. It's where is the water density is rho W, and above the water body, because water body the free surface is always defined with this inverted delta, and there are three small dashes. Okay, so this represents the free surface, and above the free surface there is a atmosphere, and the air density is represented by rho a. So because we need to apply to find out to estimate evaporation, we have to apply continuity equation. Okay, so whenever we apply continuity equation for fluids, we have to use control volume approach. So we have taken this control volume, and this dash line represents the control surface. So here we have to apply continuity equation for liquid and vapor pressure, because liquid is converted to become uh, vapor pressure, vapor, and a part of this vapor again goes back to the liquid. So we have to apply a continuity equation for liquid and well as vapor phase. So first we'll apply continuity equation. So the B, that is extensive property, so that is nothing but mass flow rate of water vapor. So that is represented with mv dot. B is equal for when we apply for sorry when we apply this continuity equation for the system, the extensive property, when we apply continuity equation for liquid, extensive property is m mass of water, and beta, so beta is equal to 1, because mass of water divided by mass of water, that is equal to 1. So there is a mistake here, just you uh, correct it as 1. So dB by dt, that is nothing but mass flow rate of water vapor. So mass flow rate of water vapor is equal to the accumulation of water vapor, rate of accumulation of water vapor plus net outflow of water vapor. But when we are applying for liquid, so this is net accumulation of water plus net outflow of water. So because in the water liquid, neither liquid is coming out or going out, only phase change is taking place. Okay, so therefore this term goes to 0, because the velocity of water is 0, and but the water is decreasing because due to the evaporation. So therefore this term stays out, and whatever the decrease in water level is taking place, so that amount of water converted into water vapor, and the rate of mass flow of vapor, so that is represented by this m dot b, since it is outflowing, so therefore negative minus mv dot. We can write this rho w d volume, we can write it as rho W A dH by dt. Okay, and dH by dt, that is nothing but decrease in water level with time. So that is nothing but evaporation. Okay. So that is represented by minus E. So finally we can write m dot v is equal rho W AE. A is the area of surface area of this water body. So next we apply continuity equation for vapor phase. Okay, here the extensive property is mass of water vapor, and the beta is nothing but, because beta is nothing but mass of water vapor divided by mass of moist air. So that is represented by QV. This is nothing but specific humidity. And you see here uh, water evaporates, and water vapor stays here, and there is a wind velocity. That wind takes away this water vapor, and there is an equilibrium. So whatever the water vapor is generated here, so that is taken away, but immediately it replaced by the same amount of water vapor. So therefore no accumulation of water vapor here. So therefore this term goes, this accumulation term goes to zero. Only the this integration of QV rho A V dA. So this term exists here, and so the rate of change of water vapor, rate of rate of mass flow of water vapor. So that is represented by this m dot v. So in the previous continuity equation, we have derived this m dot v is equal to nothing but rho W AE. Okay, so rho W AE is equal double integration of QV rho A V dA. Next, we have to apply energy conservation, because to develop or to produce this water vapor, because water takes energy from radiation, and that energy is given as a latent heat of vaporization. So therefore the water is evaporated. So we know from the energy conservation equation, that is dH by dt minus dW by dt. So H is the heat energy given to the system, and W is the water body works on its surroundings. Okay, energy spent while working on surroundings, that is represented by W. So this dH by dt minus dW by dt, this represents the increase in internal energy stored in the water body. So this is the left hand term, that is nothing but rate of change of internal energy of the water body of the system. So that is equal to this accumulation of internal rate of accumulation of internal energy plus net outflow of internal energy. So in this, since the water is not flowing, so therefore V is equal to 0, and as well as the decrease in water level due to the evaporation is very small, so that this potential energy and kinetic energy both goes to 0. Okay, and since the V is multiplied with this entire term, so this term goes to 0. So finally we can write dH by dt minus dW by dt is equal d by dt triple integration of EU rho W d volume, and dW by dt is also 0. So we assume that the this water body energy spent by the water body on its surroundings is 0. So therefore we can write simply dH by dt is equal to this triple integration of EU rho W d volume, and this dH by dt. So this is nothing but rate of incoming the net radiation, that is Rn, minus Hs, that is sensibility, and as well as heat flux given to the ground. So the H, that is the heat energy given to this water body, the dH by dt. So that is equal to Rn minus Hn minus Hs minus G. And this right side term, that is this d by dt of triple integration of du rho w dw, this is accumulation of internal energy. This accumulation of internal energy, so this is converted for uh, this is supplied to the water as a latent heat for the vaporization. So therefore it is represented by LV mv dot. So LV is the latent heat of vaporization and m dot v is the mass of vapor. So this energy is uh, coming from the accumulated of energy within that water body. So we can write dH by dt is equal this, and because Hs and G, they are very difficult to estimate. Okay, so but their values are small compared to the net radiation. So therefore this Hs and G are neglected. So we can get LV mv dot, so that is equal to Rn, but mv dot we got by applying continuity equation to the liquid, we got mv dot is equal rho w ae, and we can get E is equal Rn divided by LV rho w, and A is equal 1 meter square. Okay, so we are always we are interested the rate of evaporation per unit area. So therefore the equation to estimate evaporation using energy balance method is given as ER is equal Rn by LV rho w. So this net radiation, there are tables are available for by giving latitude and longitude. Okay, so Rn can be easily obtained from the tables. Okay, and LV is known and OW is known. So for at any location on this earth, we can calculate energy balance method. So we can calculate evaporation. So only drawback of this energy balance method is because this Hs and G are difficult to estimate. Only we are neglecting. So whatever the error accumulated in this energy balance method is due to neglecting this Hs and G. So let's do one example. So elevation is given as 2 meters and pressure is 101.3 kilopascal. So wind speed at that 2 meter elevation is given as 3 meters per second. Net radiation is 200 watt per meter square. Air temperature is given and relative humidity is given as 40%, and we need to estimate evaporation. So we can calculate this LV. So that is 2.5 to 10 power 6 minus 2370 T. Okay, so T is given as 25 degrees Celsius. So latent heat of evaporation at the temperature is 2441 kilojoule per kg, and rho W for that temperature at 25 degree we can get rho W as 997. So from this formula the evaporation is 7.10 millimeter per day. So the assumptions of this energy balance method are the most important assumption of energy balance method is it assumes that wind is not limiting. Okay, that means there is a sufficient wind to allow water to evaporate. So by this method it is found that This energy balance method is almost 95% accurate. So there is another method which is aerodynamic method. So aerodynamic method mainly uses convection of uh, convection of this vapor in the upward direction, and as well as convection of turbulent momentum. So aerodynamic method, so we can since this is the main principle of this aerodynamic method is convection. So the upward vapor flux which can be, this is nothing but a transport equation. Okay, so we can calculate the mv dot is equal minus oa kw dqv by dg, whereas qv is a specific humidity and kw is eddy vapor diffusivity. Okay. So this dqv by dz, this is a differential term. We can simplify algebraically. So we can write dqv by dz as qv1 minus qv2 by z2 minus z1. Okay. So by measuring the specific humidity at two locations above the ground, we can calculate this dqv by dz. And this similarly, because this water vapor, it is carried by this the wind. Okay, and the wind rises due to the convection, and the momentum transfer in the convection is equal to tau is equal rho a km du by dz, whereas km has eddy viscosity, and this is again simplified using algebraic method. So that is equal rho a km u2 minus u1 by z2 minus j1. So we can divide this equation by this. Okay, from that we can get m dot is equal tau into kw qv1 minus qv2 by km u2 minus u1. So we are measuring qv1 qv2 and u2 u1 at two locations, therefore, and the unknowns are tau kw and km. To find this mass flow rate of wave, so kw or km, they are, since both are driven by the convection, they are equal. So kw km cancel each other. So we need to know tau. So tau is obtained using log law. So log law gives u by u star is equal 1 by kappa log z by j naught. Okay. So we are measuring velocity at two locations. Therefore, the unknown term is u star, because z naught is this representation of roughness. So there is a equation is given to calculate z naught. So therefore, the unknown in this equation is u star, and u star is directly related to tau. Okay, so because u star is equal to square root of tau naught by rho, therefore we can apply log law at two locations along one vertical line. Then we can get equation for tau as this. Okay, so once tau is obtained, then the tau is substituted here, then we get mv dot is equal kw k square rho a qv1 minus qv2 by u2 minus u1 divided by km log km into square of log z2 by z1. Then we know what is mv dot, that is nothing but rho w ae. Okay, so we can get then we can get e, because rho w ae we can put it here. Then e is equal this equation divided by rho w a. Since a is equal 1 meter square, simply the rho w comes here, and this equation we can simplify as e of aerodynamic method is equal b into en es minus ea.